So last summer, we went to check out Summit One in New York City. Our friends Joe and Martina were in town, and we wanted to see if it lived up to the hype. We met up in Grand Central, the subways let you out here, and it was 1 block away from One Vanderbilt. Summit One is Manhattan's tallest skyscraper, so naturally, its observation deck should have some really good views. Being late summer, sunset was around 7 p.m., and Joe planned for us to get 6 p.m. tickets so we would get a variation of light: daylight, sunset, and night. This was his idea. I won't take any credit for that. So we went through security and took the elevators up, which was a pretty cool experience in itself. They simulated speed with flashing light. It was pretty cool. So we exited the elevators and entered the main room, and it was quite a scene. Also a little overwhelming, so I got to work. Fuji was cool enough to send me the 110 and the 45mm lenses to test out for a few weeks, and this was kind of my final test run before I purchased my own 110. I did purchase my own GFX100s at this point. On the website, they specify you can bring really small tripods under, I think, 12 inches, but I didn't have any back then, so I was just shooting handheld. With only having 2 lenses, a short telephoto lens and a standard focal length, I ended up doing 2 styles of shots: panos and crops. One thing I would highly recommend is some sort of silicone lens hood that you can attach to the end of your lens and press up to the glass to eliminate all of the glaring. I didn't have one, of course, so for me, it was all about finding the right angle to avoid the glares. If I did have one, I would have had one less variable to deal with, and it would have been a bit easier. So if you are headed to Summit One, I would highly recommend picking one up before you go. I'd say there are 2 main features of Summit One: mirrors and the buildings. You can shoot separately, or you can do a combination. Naturally, I was here to shoot the buildings, but I couldn't resist a few selfies with the GFX. It's pretty cool to see all the layers the mirrors produce. Since the 110 is an 85mm equivalent, it's not quite enough, so this is where 100 megapixels comes in handy to crop in. But onto the buildings. The view is absolutely incredible. I always find it pretty surreal to see so many buildings of all sizes in New York City. Being high up, there's so many things to notice that naturally you cannot see from the street. Rooftop gardens, pools, water towers, it's a whole other world up top, and it's fascinating. As you can see, I'm experimenting with different lens filters. It was really bright in the beginning, so I did play around with ND filters, also a circular polarizer, which I found wasn't that helpful to cut out the glare that I was getting from the glass, so I would most likely not recommend this. The main room is facing south, and you have great views of downtown. If you head over to the west, you can get great views of Hudson Yards and, of course, the west side. I really love the shots I got of the sun setting over Hudson Yards, especially. Also, if you have a 400mm lens, you could probably snap pictures of people standing on the edge in Hudson Yards. The next room has views of Central Park and northern Manhattan. I snapped a few shots of 383 Madison, the octagon-shaped building, which I found to be pretty cool. Also, note the cranes. There's just non-stop construction and building in New York City. 432 Park was also a natural building to shoot, as it's pretty much centered in the room. There was a big line for the levitation ledge with the glass floor. I believe it was about a 45-minute wait, so we skipped that and headed into the balloon room. In case you're curious, I'm filming video with my GoPro attached to the GFX via the hot shoe. That video is from my perspective. Lisa is filming me and additional B-roll with my XH1 and 23mm lens. This was definitely a fun room. I didn't end up going to the glass wall to take additional building shots. The view was pretty similar to the previous room and just a bit to the left, but I did get distracted with the balloons, so maybe next time. It was a bit chaotic to say the least in that room, but I snapped a handful of shots and took a picture of Lisa and I. I didn't even notice that Joe and Martina were in the background, but it would have been a pretty good opportunity for a group shot next time. Once you exit this room, you have east side views and of course the iconic Chrysler building. I first shot this with the 110mm and then switched to the 45 for a wider view. I think the 20 to 35mm lens would be a perfect lens for Summit One. This lens was not out yet at the time of filming this video, but it would have made for a perfect lens for this scene, as there wasn't a ton of distance between the Summit One building and the East River. I should have tallied how many times I switched lenses during this whole experience. It was a bit daunting. It would have been more ideal to have a second body, so I didn't have to switch lenses. Goals. We re-entered the main room, but on the upper level, and at this point the sun was setting, and it was a pretty good one. The upper floor is where you get some really awesome reflection shots with all of the mirrors. And again, having a much wider lens in this scenario would have been pretty cool. I shot downtown again and did a pretty large pano, and as you can see, there was a bit of glare in the bottom left, so definitely pick up that silicone glare blocker if you go to Summit One. Jumping in real quick, if you are enjoying this video, please consider subscribing. It would help me and the channel out a ton. And back to the video. At this point, there were more people around, and without a doubt, the most annoying part of Summit One is how people hog the window panes. So it is a bit of a waiting game, but of course, to be expected. Some people chose to read books in the windows, which is pretty annoying considering it's an observation deck. Seems kind of weird to me, but if I personally did not bring a camera here, I could just simply stare out the windows and take in the scenery. The Hudson Yard shots were definitely some of my favorite, with the sun setting right above the building, so I stayed here for a bit to make sure I got the perfect shot, and of course, I couldn't resist taking a pano with the 45mm. Lastly, we headed up to the very top and on the outer deck for the final shots. And at this point, it was just before it got super dark. I really love these handheld night shots. To me, this is the best level of darkness to shoot handheld. Beyond this, I really prefer a tripod to do long exposure / HDR. The GFX has amazing dynamic range, but to me, you just really can't beat the shadow detail you get from long exposure shots. After it got a bit darker, I experimented with resting my camera on the floor and taking some long exposures, but these weren't the greatest and did not make the cut, at least for now. Next time, I'm definitely going to bring my Hapey small tripod so that I can take some HDR shots. I think they would look really sick from all the way up here. And we are going to end this with 2 final panos and 1 HDR 45mm shot, the only HDR shot of this experience. Have you guys been to Summit One? If so, let me know what your thoughts are. I personally had a great time, and I will definitely be going back, probably with the 20 to 35mm just to get a bit wider of a field of view. So what did you guys think of this video topic? Typically I do review type videos, but I'm branching out a little bit, trying some different things. I was thinking of doing another one of Edge just to do a bit of a comparison, just to see how it stacks up. But yeah, if you have any suggestions, any types of places you want me to go or shoot, let me know in the comments. So that about wraps the video. If you liked this video and found it helpful, please consider subscribing and giving me a thumbs up. It would help me out and this channel a ton as I'm trying to grow. And with that being said, I'll catch you in the next video.